What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Surviving the Game. This is episode number 5. Episode number 5.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's more
yeah.
like 8.
No, it's 5, man. We just took a little, what do we call it? Hiatus, a
Okay.
little sabbatical.
Sabbatical.
Yeah, saying. Yeah, we did a little sabbatical. I had to do some stuff, man, to get this house up and running. Speaking of, this podcast is sponsored by Secured Sober Living. Yeah, we are a men's sober living house in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and we are accepting applications. So if anybody is interested, if anybody is looking to take that next step in their recovery, and yeah, you can go to www.securedsoberliving.com. You can put the application in there, and then we will contact you after you get done. We'll get an email saying that the application has been submitted, and we'll review it. We'll contact you. We'll talk to you, do a little interview, and hopefully we'll get you in. Yeah. Speaking of, so got a guest here with me today. Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Scott Wilburn, and I am a resident
Yeah,
at Secured Sober.
literally just found him walking down the street.
Walking down the street.
Yeah, never
No
seen this
shoes
guy.
or
No
socks.
shoes, no service.
Nothing.
Nothing. Nah, actually, yeah, Scott. Well, you've been here like 2 weeks now.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, and made some good progress. It's been
it's
really
a,
good.
It's a really calm house. We was just talking earlier, like, I went in there, and there's one single knife in there, and I was like, oh, somebody's catching charge.
Yeah.
Somebody's getting a
Yeah, in the sink.
Because it never
Yeah,
happens.
yeah,
It
yeah,
never.
yeah,
It's just always immaculate.
Well,
And that's nice.
Yeah, right now we're in the, we're a month and a half. We've been open for a month and a half now, so we're definitely in the beginning stages. The house was completely remodeled from, floor to ceiling. Everything in it's brand new. It's a beautiful house.
Yeah.
And
Beds hadn't even been slept in.
every bed was brand new.
Yeah.
We bought every bed brand new.
That's nice. That was the selling point. I was like, I'll think about it. And he was like, this bed's new. I was like,
Never been
I'll
slept
come.
in.
I'll be here.
And the sheets, they're new too.
They're new too.
Yeah, the comforter, it's
Here,
new.
new beds.
Yeah.
Use sheets.
Yeah, use sheets. Yeah, that's our motto.
Yeah.
New bed, use
And
sheets.
do not leave the light on.
Yeah, do not leave the light on. Actually, that's in the policy and
Yeah.
procedures.
Oh, I
When
was
you-
thinking of the
when you
hotels
leave-
commercial.
Oh, yeah,
We'll leave
the
the light
Motel
on for you.
6. Yeah, we'll leave the light on for you.
Better not leave the light on.
Well, we have, what do you call it? The floodlight. It comes on with motion. So
Yeah.
if you do creep up on us, the light will come on.
I know, and I did something the other day, and this is funny now.
Okay.
But I walked from the room. I was the only one here now. From the room to the bathroom in my birthday suit.
Oh,
and then I
Lord.
looked over and seen the light flash.
Oh, my God.
Uh-oh. Naked on camera.
Oh, my God.
I didn't
This
tell
is-
nobody. I told
yeah,
Brandon.
yeah.
He laughed.
Did he?
Yeah.
I guess that's a selling point. I don't know.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not. No. But yeah, you've been here 2 weeks, man. And man, it's been a really, really cool experience so far for you and for me. Like it's and for the house,
Yeah.
Everybody in the house is everybody's kind of on the same wavelength. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Everybody's
Well, the mesh is great.
yeah.
I've went to meetings individually with everybody, and I can be in the same room with everybody.
Right.
There's like not a tumultuous situation. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's super nice.
Yeah, it's important, to have a peaceful place to go
Yeah.
to further your recovery. A lot of people don't. I don't know if a lot of people, but some people may not realize that sober living is like the next step.
Yeah.
It's not the first step. In my opinion, you should
Right.
go and go to treatment or do some sort of IOP, something
Right.
to jumpstart your recovery and then come
Right.
to sober living.
And I've been to treatment, I don't know, 5 times and never went to sober living.
Yeah.
Having a family or young kids.
Right.
It's kind of tough to do, but
It is
dude,
tough.
I've heard of nightmare sober living houses.
Yeah,
from
they're
people
out there.
through NA and
Yeah.
stuff, and just zero accountability. People
Right.
doing whatever they want.
Yeah,
And
that's
this
not.
isn't that.
No, not at all. Accountability is the most important aspect
Right.
of this place, and we've talked before about just making your rent, just being able to afford to live here is not the number one requirement.
Right.
You know, the number one requirement is recovery.
Right.
And you gotta follow the guidelines that we have set
So you
forth.
can have the money. That doesn't mean you get to stay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I will give anybody the opportunity
Sure.
that is serious about recovery, you know.
Yeah.
So you did say something there that I want to kind of talk about. So you said, you know, this is your first time in sober living,
Yeah.
but you'd been to treatment, would you say 5 times?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the statistics that kind of blew me away was people who go back to their regular living situation
Yeah.
after treatment, the like recovery rate's like 11%. And then those who go further, whether it's sober living or IOP or just to do more, they get 68%. So there's
Wow.
like a big
That's a
difference.
big difference.
Yeah,
Well, especially if you're talking about your life,
right.
like,
Exactly.
or even at 2 points would
Yeah,
be a lot if you're talking about living or
exactly.
dying. You know.
I
So
think, I think people are afraid of what's uncomfortable.
yeah.
And so obviously going to live in a house with a bunch of strangers just
Yeah.
does not sound like a fun time. But doing the uncomfortable is what we've had to do to get, real
Right.
recovery. You know, a lot of the things that I do today are comfortable, but when I started doing them, they were not. They were
Right.
uncomfortable.
You have to work yourself up to that. And I get more comfort out of being uncomfortable. It's a very weird thing.
Yeah.
Even just speaking at the meetings,
Calm down.
raising my hand, raising my hands in church, whatever.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
And then it's
Well,
a peaceful thing.
yeah.
You know.
12-step meetings, it's such a good place to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like, it took me a long time to finally speak at one of those.
But you're
share.
dude. Every time I've been with you, you're firing them off, dude.
Like, yeah. Bombs over recovery.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, it's taken practice. It's taken conditioning.
Yeah.
And really though, I share what I know and I know what I know from experience.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I share, But I think when you come into recovery, you don't have to have the most eloquent share.
Right.
What you got to do is just open up.
Yeah, your shares are always, to me, they sound well structured, and mine's not. Mine's like, I'm crying a lot. You know, I stubbed my toe yesterday. You know, I can't stop crying.
But you know what?
That's what mine is. Yours is always like, you say stuff from the book. It's good.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, how am I gonna follow that?
But man, you know what though? You're speaking from where you're at though,
right?
And that's the important thing. And I've learned over just my experience that I need to hear the newcomer share where he's at, so I never forget where I was at.
Right.
Because once you get some little bit of time under your belt, and trust me, I don't have a lot of time under my belt. I'm coming up on 3 years. I'm very proud of those 3 years.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not nothing to sneeze at. But what I'm saying is, like, the more time you get under your belt, sometimes you can forget what it was like day one. So when that newcomer comes in and they do share, it's very important for those of us who've kind of been, coming for a little bit longer.
And that kind of thing bothered me for a long time. Like, I would get more comfort out of hearing somebody else's pain than anything. And I felt real guilty about that for a long time.
Yeah.
Or somebody would be like, I just thought about killing myself or this or that. And I'd be like,
well, it's relatable.
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And I felt bad about that for a long time. But.
Well, you know what kind of changed my tune on that is I went to a meeting and I had shared up into this point. I would share every now and then, but I left a meeting and this guy that had a lot more time than me, he kind of called me out. He was like, hey, man, how come you never share in the meetings?
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, well, I just get a lot out of listening. And he was like, oh, well, that's great, man. He's like, but what about us? And it was like, wow, you're right.
Put it all on you.
You're right. No, but he was right, though. It's like, you're right, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to be just taking.
Yeah.
I want to contribute. Whether I think my contribution is valid or big enough or whatever, extravagant enough. It's like, man, I don't know what is going to help somebody else.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the things that you think have no value
Yeah.
that really reach
You
the
just
most
hit
people.
that one person that makes a difference.
Oh man, absolutely. And a lot of times that's what it is. You'll finish at a meeting or something, and you'll feel like, oh, it's just an average meeting, and somebody will come up and say, man, your share just really touched you, and you're like, I didn't think it was anything fancy, or you know what I mean? But and to somebody else, it's like,
And you always said that how do you word it? Everything you get, you got to give it away to keep it.
Yeah, it's part of the deal, right? To keep it, you got to give it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's important in the 12-step community. It's what keeps the fellowship alive.
Yeah.
Right. If I just got what I needed and then dipped out, then eventually it would fall apart. It wouldn't be there anymore. And so, so eventually, you got to get yourself to a point where you can start to contribute, whether it's sponsoring other guys.
You got to have so much time to sponsor,
it
right?
depends on, for my sponsor, I needed to get past step 5 before he would
That's
say
parameters he put
that was, you know what I mean? Because it takes a lot of work to get past that point.
Yeah.
And when people get to step 4, a lot of people quit. It's a hard step because you're getting honest and you're writing, like you're supposed to get honest.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to write about everything, whether it makes you look bad or whether it hurts.
It's kind of like a repentance thing to yourself or something, right?
Well, and it's not just to yourself. You're sharing it with yourself, with another human being, and with God.
Yeah.
And that is something that I had never done. Honestly, I'd never gotten honest with myself. First off, God, I think, knows everything, but I've never shared all my flaws, all my fears, all my embarrassing or shameful or remorseful things with another person.
And you do that with just one person, and that's
the thing is right. You don't have to dance with everybody, but you got to dance with somebody. So get a sponsor, man. You know what I mean? And start working the steps, and life will change for people.
That's the one thing. I've been through recovery and been in the meetings and all these rooms, but that's the one thing I never did.
Yeah.
And,
well,
I'm excited to do.
Yeah. So it's the answer.
Yeah.
Right. If it's the answer, then that's
I know.
where the work
I
needs
remember
to go.
being in detox last time, and this person coming in and talking, and them saying, "All you got to do is these steps." And not get high, and I'm like, bro, it's not it,
They snuck that in. They snuck that in there too.
Right.
Oh, and not get high.
And not get high, not pick up.
Yeah, not pick up. Yeah. Well, and it's true, man. Right? It is true. Yeah. So I mean, if you don't pick up, you can't get high.
There's a lot in behind that.
There's a lot in behind.
Of course, I was in detox also.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you
too
can't
much
see
there.
past the moment.
Right.
Yeah. And so, like, I do H&I. For those that don't know what that means, it's hospitals and institutions. It's where I go into a facility, whether it's a treatment center or a jail. We'll go to the workhouse sometimes, and you just share your experience, strength, and hope. Right. And so I do that. I'm a panel coordinator for a treatment center here in Murfreesboro. So I bring, every month, I'll bring a male speaker and a female speaker. And they'll go in there and they'll share their experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
There was a guy last time, Cue Ball. He was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, well, never mind.
Yeah. Anonymity.
Yeah. I'm new.
Yeah.
I'm new.
He said, I'm new.
It's like Joe Dirt when he hits the thing and the poop gets all over him. Do you remember that?
I don't. I do remember Joe Dirt.
Okay.
Obviously, I've seen it. Yeah, you can't not know the firecracker quote, all the names and stuff.
He says, one swing of this ball-peen hammer will level half the city, maybe even the whole country.
I just remember Kid Rock would just torment him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's been a long time since I watched Joe Dirt. It's a good movie, though.
It is good.
Yeah.
Dear Tay.
Dear Tay.
Church it up.
Yeah, Dear Tay. No, dress it up just a little bit. Just a little bit. But, so you've been here 2 weeks, man. I know it's been a rough week for you. We're not going to go into details or anything like that.
Yet.
He says yet. But it has been a challenging week for
Yeah.
you, man. And we're here for you for the long haul.
Yeah.
You know.
And I appreciate that. I like immediately I felt the love here. That's just what's wild to me. And I'll
Yeah.
be honest with you. I was in. I told you this before, but I was in church and hit my knees at the altar, just praying about going to halfway house, and
Yeah.
God just revealed to me, well, if you don't go, then I'm gonna take everything from you, and that's
Right.
all I need to hear.
Yeah.
And I was here, but we're reluctant to make these decisions, and then it's like the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
I feel like at
I,
the time,
I think.
whatever.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Same, man. It's same. It's some of those decisions that um carry the most weight.
Yeah,
That really bring about
and it seems like a
change.
big deal.
Yeah. It is a big deal.
Well,
It's a
it
very
is a
big
big
deal.
deal, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Y'all have made it where it's not a big deal,
Well,
or made it feel
yeah.
very
Yeah.
comfortable.
Well, and so one of the factors I think that's really going to make a difference and has made a difference is the fact that this is my full-time thing.
Yeah,
It's not like my
part
side
time,
business
right,
or whatever, so it's like I'm here every day.
right.
For the most part, I'm here every day. If I'm not out there going to treatment centers or talking
Yeah,
to treatment centers and just trying to get the name out there, and even when I'm doing that, I'm here. I'm available,
yeah,
and
one
I
hundred
sit
percent.
down. I sit down with pretty much everybody. Well, not pretty much, with everybody,
Yeah, for sure.
and we talk one on one. And we have our house meeting on Saturdays, and it's just it's so rewarding for me. But I wanted it to be different,
Yeah,
and I'm not gonna knock any other sober living house,
right, right.
because that's not what I'm trying to say. But what I'm trying to say is this is something that I'm doing out of passion, and it's because my life has been changed
Yeah,
by these things. And so the things that you're required to do to live in this house are the same things that I do. It's the
right,
same things that I've either done or am doing,
right.
and so to me, I think that makes a difference.
Yeah,
When somebody has done it, it's easier for somebody to maybe say, "Oh, okay, well then I'll do that."
yeah,
And we've talked before about like um going places and like treatment centers or
yeah,
psych hospitals, things like that, where it's strictly professionals.
yeah.
Never been an addict.
Right.
And for
And it,
me, it's
yeah, and you
it's been
can't.
the difference.
It's hard to listen to those people. I don't care if you got $1 billion
Yeah.
and you invented water.
Yeah, it can
If
be
you
very
never
hard.
been there,
Yeah.
then I just there's something where I missed that mark of listening,
It's it for
or don't want
me,
to hear it.
yeah. It was
Something.
bits and pieces. There was some of it that, was obviously beneficial, but I just don't think that I was ever going to get completely honest
Yeah,
until I found the fellowship,
yeah,
And when I say the fellowship, it's 12 step. I don't actually say which fellowship just because it goes against our traditions in the spirit of anonymity and
I almost bust,
separation.
almost busted that
It's
wide open
okay,
just now.
man. It happens, and it's not the end of the world if it does happen. It happens. But it's important to me to uphold the traditions, that I value because like this has changed my life that much,
Yeah,
and so I want to honor the way that it's been done, and I don't think that I'm the guy that needs to change it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And it getting clean is a very humbling experience.
yeah,
Yeah, it'll humble you because a lot of times you're at your very lowest, right?
yeah.
And
For
so
a
you're
long
at
time.
the bottom,
Yeah.
and so
Gutter.
yeah, it's he said
It's
gutter
gutter.
in the gutter.
It sucks, man.
It does.
And then
It's a
we,
necessary though.
yeah, and I think you got to go through every minute of that struggle, man. Like I always thought maybe you could just be put in a coma for six
Oh
months and
yeah,
come out, and you're past the
and be
withdrawals,
yeah,
and then your mind's different. But your mind is not different because
yeah.
you didn't go through every minute of that
Well,
pain. You
it's
know?
that part, and then the things that keep us sick, the sickest are the things that we hold on to.
Yeah,
Those, and I say this in this term all the time: shame, guilt, remorse, all those things that that carry those things like that. are the things that really keep me hating myself,
Right.
keep me in a state of wanting to not remember or think or feel.
Which one of those is shame and guilt? There's one of them you can get rid of, one of them you can't, right?
I don't know. Well, I've gotten rid of all of them.
All of them.
Yeah, but it came with work,
Yeah.
and it comes with honesty.
Yeah. Being real with yourself.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing too. I joke around and yuck it up a lot, but
Yeah.
I kind of do that to keep from crying.
Well, and like
sometimes.
we've got character defects. That's something you'll learn about as your
Right.
steps go on. Some of those character defects provide a service.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we do things so we don't have to do other things.
Right.
One of the things that was like huge on my list of character defects was people pleasing. And so doing things that I wouldn't necessarily do, but if I thought you might like it, I might do it. You know what I mean? So like getting paralyzed kind of falls in that pattern or that kind of category because I didn't want to go that day. And I jumped in a swimming pool and got paralyzed 2006, but I was under the influence.
Yeah.
Right? But when the day started, I wasn't under the influence. And I said, no, I don't want to go.
And it progressed.
It progressed as I drank and smoked, and my inhibition got lowered, and I gave in to what somebody else wanted to do.
It's a testament of people like, oh, I only had 5 beers or this or that, but it changes you. It changes your mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't make because I don't drink, but I've made some life-changing decisions, based upon my being under the influence.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of things that I would never do if it
Sober.
hadn't been.
Yeah.
If I was sober, if I was clean, it just would not have done those things.
Yeah.
But the thing that like I had to get past was dwelling.
Yeah.
So I would dwell and I would live in the rear view.
Right.
And miss the reality of what's going on in my life.
Do you think you'd be where you're at now if you wouldn't have got paralyzed?
Man, like I honestly don't. I don't. I think the trajectory of my life. I feel like getting paralyzed in a way probably saved my life.
Yeah,
slowed me down big time, man. And it also contributed to the type of drug I used. So after getting paralyzed, I went to opiates, obviously.
Yeah, right.
Very easy for me to get.
Very
it was
easy.
not a thing. I didn't even, like, I would just tell them what I wanted. Yeah. Not even, like,
really?
No, like, if, ands, or buts. Like, no, this is what I want. This is what works. No big deal. Years, man. And then, like, I believed that I deserved to get high. I believed that I deserved it because of my circumstances. And other people would tell me that they also believed that I deserved. And when I look back on that today, yeah, it's like, no, I don't. Nobody deserves to go through that.
Smash all your emotions down with
medicine, well, absolutely. That, and then just the destruction around you. Yeah. It's a family disease. It affects every member of my family. I can only speak for my circumstances and my family. I'm close to my family.
Yeah.
And my family never drew that hard line on me. And a lot of that had to do with being in a wheelchair and being paralyzed.
Yeah.
I think it would have been different if I hadn't been. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have. But I think that I also knew how to use that to my advantage.
Yeah.
Play the sympathy card.
And you know that.
Oh,
that's something that who you're talking to might not know, but you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's
exactly.
It's kind of the yin and yang thing with me. I just I feel that in my recovery or
just in life,
reading my Bible, and I'm like, well, I'm doing this, but you could be doing more.
Yeah.
It's always
there, and that's part of my prayer system, right? And so when I pray to just do a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's not that I pray to do a little bit more. It's kind of like I vow to do
Yeah.
just a little bit more than I did yesterday.
It's
Just,
hard to do that. I think it goes against everything we want to do. It's getting up and
yeah,
reading the Bible and trying to be a better
yeah,
man, you know?
yeah.
And
Well, and if you, if you put in just a little bit of the same amount of effort that you put into being an addict,
yeah, you'd be the man.
you could get a lot done
Right.
for sure. And so that's one thing that we talk about in recovery is being an addict is 24-hour job. If you put in 10% of that into your recovery a day, that's 2.5 hours, give or take, and that's reading your basic text or um, working on steps, going
Yeah.
to meetings, talking to other addicts, things like that.
So is that like what they say to do?
No, no, that's just a thing. Like if you just put like you obviously, I put way more than 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
My day consists of recovery because
Everything. Yeah.
that's all I'm really doing is my life, and I love that, and I
Yeah.
love that that's what I get to do today.
I can tell you do because you always step out and somebody might be going through them and
Bro, I
say,
ain't stepped out in almost 19
"Oh
years.
dang, dude, he's gonna roll up
Yeah,
with
I'm gonna
that joke.
roll up with it. Yeah,
It's
I'm gonna
gonna
roll it to death.
He's gonna roll it
Yeah,
right in there."
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, you're always eager to be like, "Well, here, let me help you with this or that,"
yeah.
and even when nobody's asking,
Yeah,
and that's huge, man.
well, it's huge for me.
Yeah.
We're selfish people. I
Right.
do it to help others, but I get something out of it.
Yeah.
And it's not like the same get something out of it that I used to do things for,
Yeah.
where I would only do something if I was going to benefit from it.
Right.
Whether I benefit from it or not today, I'm going to help somebody
I
that
know
needs help.
you give away so much and make just being here so easy.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
thanks, man. That
and
means a lot.
and you're always, going to meetings and like I said, you got them bomb shares, dude.
Well,
And
give it time, bro. You'll
oh,
be
I know,
right
I know,
there.
I
Yeah.
know. I can just tell that you're in tune with what you're saying is what you're doing.
Well,
Period.
it's because I believe it.
Right.
You know.
And you can hear that.
Yeah.
You know.
And I speak of what I know.
Right.
So it's like, the person that lies, you got to remember those lies.
Yeah.
So my shares come naturally and easy because they're just factual things
Genuine.
yeah. So I don't have to. Now, there are times where it's like I share and I'm like, oh man, I wish I'd have talked about this, or I wish
Yeah.
I'd have said that,
Or
or
somebody else says
somebody
something,
else
it brings
says it.
something
Or
up.
I'll tell you what gets me sometimes is when somebody shares before me and they say what I was going to say.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's like
it
you
burns
just
you up.
stole my thunder, man.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to talk about now? And I just
Yeah.
move on and let somebody else get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think that's great too, though, because it's somebody else is thinking what I'm thinking.
Do you share when you share? Do you think about it before you share, or you just share?
Sometimes,
Because there's just a lot
sometimes,
of little things that a lot of people don't know, and I don't. I just kind
yeah.
of freestyle it, but I just was curious,
Sometimes when I go to a meeting, I'll read the just for today.
and just talk off of that.
Maybe if something jumps out about it
Yeah.
that it's like, oh man, yeah, I got to
Yeah.
talk about that.
Right.
But whatever it is it's because I'm relating to it.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm sharing what I'm reading. It's that evoked or like it
Right.
invoked
A thought.
a thought or a feeling or something, and so then I share that.
Yeah.
But sometimes you'll hear me share repeated things, or you'll hear me say things that I've said before, and it's because it's repetition,
Right.
and that's what recovery is. It's
And that's
like
not a
getting
bad.
up.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's not.
In this instance.
Yeah, in this instant, it's not.
Yeah.
But I love my life today, and I'm just not willing to give that up
Yeah. It's
for
awesome.
any drug, for any amount of misery, because that's all I'm gonna get. That
Yeah.
5 minutes. I'm gonna like if I was to give up like right now or give in right now and go do something, I'm gonna think about what I just gave up.
Yeah.
And it's not. I'm not gonna enjoy myself. I'm gonna think about all I just gave up.
Well, there was always a point, like, I know when I was using, there was a point where it was fun, and then somewhere it wasn't fun.
It became a must,
Right.
and not a. I'm doing this for fun times.
Right.
Now there was a lot of fun times,
Sure.
but I just couldn't turn it off.
Yeah.
There was no off switch for me.
Yeah.
So at the end of the night, when everybody's going home,
You're
I'm
getting
going to get another one. Yeah.
Another
Yeah. I'm going to,
Gagger.
yeah, exactly. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to, indulge by myself
Yeah,
and,
it's
and
terrible.
sit there in misery
There's
and
nothing
think
worse.
less of myself.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than using by yourself, man.
Yeah, but it's also one of those things where you become greedy and stingy. You don't
Yeah.
want to share.
Yeah,
You
and then
know?
when people call in, you're not answering.
Not
the phone.
answering the phone, yeah, because you
Yeah.
feel like a loser.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those, man. I think that's what makes 12 steps so like relatable
Yeah.
is because of stuff like that. It's like what you just said. I know what you're talking about. I
Yeah,
know
sure.
exactly that
And I know you know what I'm
phone
talking
ringing
about. Right?
and you're in your room by yourself or
Oh,
you're
it's
sitting
my
on your
mom.
couch or
She's gonna know.
yeah, definitely
Yeah.
something like that.
So
yeah.
did you like say when you relapsed or something like that? Was it for a good time or bad? Not to have a good time, but was it when you were
Was
doing
it
really good in your life, or more of a negative end? Do you know what I'm saying?
honestly, man, I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. I've never wanted to quit using until this time.
Really?
Yeah.
And that
I've
was
always had a reservation in my head. And it wasn't like, oh, if this happens,
yeah.
I'll use, or I don't know if I'll use. You know what I mean? Like what it was like when I got out of the psych hospital, I got some drugs in my room that's like sitting in a shoe. I've been hiding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I did that last time, not with the drugs, but I was like, well, you know what? I'm not gonna go look for it, but if I see somebody at the gas station,
Yeah.
and then later on I'll be like, well, I wouldn't buy it, but
Yeah.
if somebody gave it to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of ran off that for a while.
Yeah, and then you go
know?
ahead and go get the money out of the ATM.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Well, I mean, then
Yeah.
I think you're just moving your line in your head.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Of course, man. Of course. The line moves because ultimately you want it to.
Yeah.
You know? It's not an accident.
Yeah.
You don't accidentally get high.
Yeah.
You purposefully plan it.
And it happens
Whether-
way before you think it's happening.
Of course it
too, I
does.
think.
Like
Yeah.
I was thinking about it while I was still, in treatment.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it was like a known thing. Like I'm definitely because like as a true addict, I'm not gonna throw it away.
Right.
You know what
So
I'm saying?
you just had it there waiting on you.
Yeah,
You
well,
already know.
because
Yeah.
like with me, circumstances happen. You get arrested or something like that,
Yeah.
and you don't go home first. And so
You hear about these people that I know. I have a buddy that overdosed and went to the hospital and got out, and
Did
the
it
police
again.
didn't find it, and then 4 hours later, it's the same thing. That's crazy to me, but that's me.
Well,
too.
that's the testament of how strong it is.
Yeah.
You could literally have just been saved. Your
Dead.
life could have just been saved, and all you're thinking about is doing another one.
It's unreal.
I mean, I've woke up in the back of ambulances
Yeah.
before with no recollection
Yeah.
of anything. You know what I mean? Just like I have a recollection of getting, and then like that's
Nothing else.
it.
right?
Nothing else. Yeah. Wake
Yeah,
up in the-
I've had a years of time that where I don't. Somebody say, "Well, you don't remember that?" No,
yeah.
it's just not there.
Yeah.
There's like a block in my life.
Right.
I might remember this little thing and that thing,
Bits
but a
and
lot of it's
pieces.
gone.
Yeah. Well, and maybe
so-
that's good.
Yeah,
You know.
Maybe.
Maybe, you know what I
Maybe.
mean? Like there's been a lot of things and it just depends on the substance too.
yeah,
There's certain substances, Xanax for example.
yeah, and that's where a lot of that's come
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
I didn't know if it was gonna
Well,
say
I mean,
it or not.
you know, it's like I'm not glorifying it in any way.
Sure.
I'm just being honest
Sure.
with you. It's like
Yeah.
those were the most every time I've ever overdosed is because I mixed
Really?
Xanax with whatever,
Yeah.
fentanyl, whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And just it just really affects your memory too.
Yeah.
You know, like chunks of time just gone,
like it just wasn't there.
just wasn't there. You know,
But everybody else remembers. when you
yeah,
were
of
at-
course. You know,
it's
you
terrible.
you get allergic reaction to it and
Yeah.
break out in handcuffs.
Yeah,
and-
right.
Yeah, and
You can't eat your mashed potatoes with your nose.
yeah, yeah, hide and watch.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh.
but man, it's like it's when you think about like all that, and I don't think about that stuff really anymore,
Yeah.
but because we're talking about it,
Sure.
right? It's like a lot of embarrassing
A very
in
embarrassing.
front of family, and in people that I care about, or things said, because that's another thing that'll do is it'll make you
Yeah.
somebody you're not,
Right.
or
I
it'll
know.
bring something out of you that,
Dude, some of the best friends I had were completely the opposite of a thief, would take Xanax and
oh
try to
yeah,
steal right in front of me. Like, what are you doing?
yeah, they think
You
they're
idiot.
slick.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
not.
like,
Dude.
bro,
They're moving like,
you're in
yeah.
slow motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, slow motion.
What, I'm trying to think something you said earlier about reputation.
Reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
You said something earlier, and we were talking.
yeah, we were talking earlier about something that my mom told me, growing up, and it never really like clicked, or I didn't care or
Right.
anything like that. I wanted to be something that I wasn't, or anything but what I was, in my mind.
Right.
Like I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. So like again, people pleasing and stuff like that. But she
Right.
would say like, once you get a reputation, it's hard to shake it.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah.
There's people right now that probably still think of me, of whatever they
Sure.
knew me as, or, uh, you know, but you can shake it.
Right.
You can change. You may not shake the reputation.
Right.
And so like, it's important to me today that I live my life the way that I talk about it,
Yeah.
and not just talk about it and then go out here and do other
Right.
nonsense.
Well, you do, man. Like since I've been here, we spent a lot of time together, and I appreciate you as a friend
Same.
and just being there.
Yeah,
We do
definitely.
a lot of stuff together.
Yeah, it's been a really fun 2 weeks, man.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And we're just riffing and running, and
yeah, and that's the part like that I want people that are in active addiction to know is like there's fun
yeah.
to be had.
Right.
That was one of the things that I thought for sure life was going to suck without, some kind of mind or mood altering substance to keep me having fun, even though like having fun had been gone.
It's miserable.
Many years ago,
Right.
decade ago,
Yeah.
and so today is like, it's genuine. The relationships I have with people is genuine. It's not about what I can get from you, but it's like I truly do have fun and
Yeah.
like laugh. I laugh now today. Before
Yeah.
like I didn't want to laugh. I didn't care about laughing.
Yeah.
None of that. Or just laying my head down at night with a clear conscience.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's more than a good one. You know, knowing you put your day's work in and you can sleep. You wake up and, like you said, with nothing on your conscience. That's a big deal for me, man.
Yeah. Well, and then too, when you are just honest, you don't have to remember anything. Because I used to lay in bed trying to remember, what did I say?
What lie you told?
What am I going to have to remember tomorrow? And then, or 2 or 3 weeks from now, and then somebody would
call you out,
call, and you just I couldn't keep up, just like it's so nice today to be able to remember.
It's
and
exhausting, too.
It is exhausting. Well, being an addict it's such a full-time thing.
Yeah.
No matter what else you got going on in your life.
Well, and yeah, I think we talked about this before, but when you get clean, all of a sudden, like, you have 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And it's unreal.
Yeah.
You're like, what do I do? Just, I guess, shovel some more food down.
Yeah. Oh, I
this
know.
hole,
Yeah. Yeah.
Eating's a whole nother thing.
It is.
I think you drop something and pick something else up. That's the way I am,
Yeah, most definitely. But I think
I'm not hungry, but I 4 racks.
I kind of got carried away with buying shoes,
Yeah.
and things. But I also looked at it like I'm doing good in life, and so like I want to do things and buy things that that before I would have never even considered buying a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Not at all. Well, I couldn't. First of all, like it was just not going to happen. There was no money there for that. But like I had to reel that in a little bit too. You know what I mean? Because like too much of anything is a bad thing, or it can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
And so, but food is one of the big ones, and And I think that we go for so long eating so poorly or yeah, not eating at all that when you do get clean, yeah, like I know I gained quite a bit of weight
Yeah.
when I got clean, and I didn't realize how bad I looked though either. Like I go back and look at pictures now.
You look dead.
You look
then,
dead.
Yeah.
I thought I looked fine, and it's like, oh my God,
Like
that's
raccoon
horrible.
got the thing.
Yeah, cheeks sunk in, eyes sunk in. And it's like, I definitely don't want no Facebook memories. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm not posting some then and nows. It's like, and maybe I should because it does show something.
Sure.
But I
if
just
you can
don't.
see it, they can see it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and that's my thing too. Is like, man, like, could people just? It was just all over me.
Yeah. Well, and just meeting people in parking lots. When you see people doing that, you're like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh,
but
absolutely.
I was doing that too.
Yeah. Thinking nobody knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ain't slick.
Yeah. No, not at all.
Slick.
Man. Slick.
You ain't
slick. Yeah. Yeah. Those were my prayers, man. God, I pray he shows up. You know what I mean? I pray he answers. Oh, I
really?
Pray. Yeah. I had foxhole prayers, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the testament. And that's what makes this thing so hard.
Yeah.
So hard to stop, is because you can have the best intentions. You can make promises to God, to yourself, to everybody else, and then wake up the next day and you're convincing yourself. It's in your own voice.
Or you're just
convincing
you.
Yeah.
Well, I think once it goes from.
Well, that's powerless.
Powerlessness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When it goes from, when it starts being physical, I think that introduced a whole nother game. Like the fentanyl game and the crack game are two different.
Oh
things.
God, yeah, absolutely.
Like crack people might steal your stuff, but the fentanyl people will sell out their grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different.
Yeah,
it
is.
I don't know.
Man.
It's wild, man.
Yeah, and it's even worse today, because they are putting other things out there with it, and like animal tranquilizers and xylazine. They're just different. Yeah, just like things that I'm like, holy cow, like, wow, I'm glad I got out.
Well, there was a long time, I think, our era or before, where you could use hard stuff for extended periods of time and not saying not be risk dying.
But it wasn't as risky.
It wasn't like, here, touch this and you'll fall out right now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so that carries into recovery too, because before it was more common for people to relapse and then come back.
Yeah.
And so it's like today, man, it's like
you might not
get that chance, you know. And it's like the percentage of people that do it just one more time and die. Yeah. We had a girl that was very into the recovery scene or the 12-step, and she too, used one more time, relapsed, and it took her life. Yeah. Actually, the last episode of this, episode number 4.
Oh, she was on it?
Maria, yeah. Oh, yeah, wow. She was the last episode we did, and it's just, to be young too, I mean, it's sad when anybody dies from an overdose, but when you know that there's so much more life to live, and you see, and it's more and more young people losing their life over it. Yeah. There's a lot of people that use one time and one time only and die. Yeah. Like they hadn't had a chance to really become an addict because they died the first time. Yeah.
Did you feel like that's one thing I felt guilty about before is doing these large amounts of stuff you're not supposed to do and living through it, and then somebody else not making it.
I don't think that I really thought about it, to be honest with you. Yeah. And I don't think about it now because it's not going to help me. Yeah. It's not going to help them or anybody else for that matter. Well, the only thing I can do is bring awareness to it.
And it didn't really help me, I guess, either. But that's just pondering those questions that are never going to be answered kind of thing. But it did give me perspective and made me realize that I'm here for a reason. Now, what that reason
Yeah.
is,
Well,
that's
it's
to be determined.
TBD. Yeah, it's to be determined, man.
Dang.
Yeah,
That's very
but
good.
that's yeah. I got some locked and loaded.
Loaded.
Yeah, but and that's another thing that's important for me. One of my best friends died, by suicide because of this disease,
Yeah.
and I never invited him to go to a meeting because I didn't know he was as bad as I was. The signs weren't there. He was
Yeah.
going to work every day. He was never, um, you know what I mean? Like the outward signs, just I didn't see him. His family didn't see him. But had I even had the slightest, I would have, of course, invited him to a meeting. But I do it for him today. And that's another thing that is like it's so important for me to maintain this is because I feel like I'm doing it for him too. Because he didn't get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I would give anything for him to, be here today and have that opportunity.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate and it's sad and it's just wrong on so many levels, but it's a part of addiction.
Yeah. Serious part.
It is a serious part, man. And miss him like crazy. Think about him all the time. And so like, opening this house is kind of like an ode to him,
Yeah.
And so it just gives me more fuel to make
Keep
sure
going.
to keep
doing
going
what you're supposed
to reach as many people as I can, to go a little bit further, and to just keep digging and keep showing up.
Yeah.
It's important to me, and I know that that's a story that so many people have,
Yeah.
because everybody knows somebody.
We're not much different, man.
Yeah.
We look different. We're different ages.
Yep.
But
Different
addiction,
races, different
yeah,
genders,
the
different
addiction
everything.
doesn't discriminate.
Yeah. No,
You know?
absolutely not.
It's hitting
Yeah.
Hollywood actors and
Yeah.
people walking the streets right here.
That's something that I talk about. Growing up, grew up in a family house with two parents that are married, still married. Had a brother, sister. We all got the same love, the same affection, the same treatment. All our needs were met, and I became an addict.
Yeah.
And they didn't, and it just does not discriminate. It doesn't. There's no like
Itinerary
there's
or
no
a person
like
that fits the bill.
right precursor like
Yeah, right.
there he is, he's gonna be the addict.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, no, it just doesn't work like that, man.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to say luck of the draw, because I've always had a fascination with doing the wrong.
Yeah.
I liked as a kid, I got in trouble a
too.
lot, and I would just do, and my mom would say that, that she must have went wrong somewhere. And I'm like, nah, you taught me the difference between right and wrong. I just like doing wrong.
Yeah.
That was just as blunt as I could be. There was a time in my life where I enjoyed doing things I shouldn't be doing.
I've had probably one of the most, same thing, same mom, same dad.
Yeah.
And probably one of the hardest struggles out of like 6 kids. One other person had a little trouble, but I can remember my mom telling me that I almost died when I was like 6 months old. She stayed up with me for like 6 or 7 days.
Yeah.
And that when we were in church, one of the elders that was kind of, gets these visions and kind of on point with what he's saying all the time, even if it's in your life. Like, God told me to tell you something,
Yeah.
And he just kind of said, well, that boy's going to have some struggles in his life.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know that I was her son. You know, he was like, well, that's my son.
Oh, wow.
And but at the same time, my mom would tell me that she had me natural, no drugs, and it was the easiest birth she ever had.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
don't know.
no rhyme or reason, man.
Right.
Yeah, it just I don't want to say luck of the draw or anything like that, but it just sometimes it's just there's no like prediction that could be made.
Well, I think God has His hands in everything, and we're appointed this position.
Oh,
period.
absolutely. Yeah, it's not for nothing, and I
Right.
don't think it's all because of just coincidence or just luck. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I think everything happens for a reason, and the hard part is not knowing what the reason is.
Yeah.
You know, um, but I think eventually we fulfill our purpose.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all I want to do, man. Like I said, this sober living is not my side hustle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's something that I enjoy getting up doing every day, and I just it's brought me happiness,
Yeah.
and I like doing it, and I like being around people that I see something in them. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like, and I think early on, and when you start to get clean, you don't see anything in yourself.
No, I think it's virtually impossible.
Yeah,
You're
it's
just trying to make it.
yeah. My mom would, and I refer to my mom a lot because she's a very important person in my life.
Sure.
My dad is too, but my mom has always said God has a plan for you, and I used to hate it when she'd say that.
Yeah.
Used to hate it. I'm
When
like,
you don't want to hear it, you don't want
yeah,
to hear it,
yeah,
and that's it.
yeah, but I believe it, you know.
Right.
But it just took. But she would say that when I was going through, some of the hardest times of my life,
Yeah.
and it's like I
You're
couldn't.
gonna reach a lot of people.
Yeah, I
So
just
yeah.
couldn't. And one, it was like I don't want to be that guy. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like that's like I'm not concerned with that right
Yeah.
now. Just why me? That's like the only thing I could think of is like you go through some years, or I went through some years there where it was like a pity party. Like
Yeah.
literally asking God, why me, man? Why?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, I made some decisions, made some choices,
Yeah.
and they and they come with consequences.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm cool with it, man. Today
Yeah.
I am.
Well, you make it fun, man. That's another thing. Like nobody wants to do this and it be boring. I think
Yeah,
people need to see people in recovery having a good time, man.
yeah.
It's important.
It is important. It is important, man. And that's like the brotherhood, that comes
Sure.
with recovery. And you just don't have to do it alone.
Right.
Right? You know what I mean? Like addiction was such an alone thing for me that it took me a while to find my people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in recovery,
Right.
and everybody's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And there's you go to meetings and stuff, and there's some cliques, and you got some people that are obviously good friends and things like that, and so trying to find your place can be hard,
Yeah.
and it can also be easy reason for people to quit, because they haven't found their place yet or they don't feel connected.
Yeah.
But my suggestion would be to be the difference.
Yeah.
So if you see a new guy, go talk to him.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Give him your phone number, reach out to him, stuff like that.
Right.
Because I honestly, man, when I started coming around, it was some weeks, at least like 3 weeks, 2, 3 weeks that I had been coming around before anybody really came up and like
Said anything to
and
you?
introduced themselves
Yeah.
to me and stuff. You know what I mean? And there's a guy named, well, I ain't gonna say his name just because
Anonymity.
anonymity. But yeah, man, and he kind of pointed me in the right direction for a meeting that was close to my uh, house, and so that became my home group, and I spent, a couple years there, and um, and then it was time for me to venture on to
Yeah.
another one, and same with like sponsors. I've had, I think, four sponsors.
That's not bad in that amount of time, I
Yeah,
would say.
and so the first three didn't work out, but I learned something from
Yeah.
each one of them, even if it was what not to do. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But like that, it wasn't a failure. It takes time sometimes to find the right one. But for me, I found somebody that just I was kind of like blown away by their recovery
Yeah.
and like how much time they'd put in it. The thing about my sponsor is what really blew me away was like he's like a month older than me, and when I met him, he had like 24 years clean. And I was like, that's crazy. Like
Yeah.
this whole time that I've been out here doing all this crazy nonsense,
You've been
he's
playing.
been in the rooms doing it,
Right.
and stuff. Is like, yeah. And then the other thing that I really needed was a sponsor that was going to keep me moving. Because there's a lot of people out there when it comes to doing steps that it's up to the person doing the steps whether or not they're going to do it.
Yeah, you
It's-
told me he kind of put you out there and was like, "Well, look, you need to do this."
Yeah, he would give me assignments, work on this, da, 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 and then we'll reconvene and meet again on this day. So I knew that when we met up, I needed to be able to go over what I'd done, and I absolutely needed that because I'm a procrastinator.
Yeah.
If it's left up to me, or at least if it was left up to me, um, a lot of times I just won't do the work,
Right.
and so it's been it's been the difference in my life, So I've been able to work all 12 steps,
Yeah.
And I'm currently working on the traditions, and so I'm proud of that,
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Yeah, it's definitely been a journey, man. And I'm just grateful that I didn't look for the reasons why it wasn't going to work for me.
Yeah. Well, now I say something to him like, "Yeah, man, I need to get better at that." You're always doing that.
Oh yeah,
And that's a humble. That just comes from a standpoint of a humble person.
yeah.
And I'm always might just be messing around like, "You need to do this," and you're like, "I do, man." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Dang, I shouldn't have said it."
Well, no, I mean,
You
like
know what I'm saying?
that's something that's come with time
Yeah.
because taking criticism, I didn't take that well.
Yeah.
I took it as an insult before.
Right. Sure.
Like, and it's like today, it's like I want to have friends that can be honest with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I'm messing up or if I'm, not pulling my weight or whatever it is, like I'd much more respect somebody that would let me know that.
Right.
And
And
even
not say anything.
yeah, not say anything or hold a grudge against me or build resentment or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing about my life today is like resentments. I have to deal with those immediately because you let them fester, and
Yeah.
then that's when you start.
Gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse, and so I try to address things.
And I've always been kind of like that. I don't want to sleep on it, or I
Yeah.
won't sleep.
Right.
If we're fighting, we're just going to fight it out right now. I'm not waiting till tomorrow.
Yeah, we're not gonna sleep on this one.
No,
Yeah.
it just never. I just wouldn't sleep.
Yeah.
It bothered me to death.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I'll tell you, it's pretty important. I'll tell you in the
Yeah.
morning, but yeah, I need to know right now.
yeah. Well, I know for me, like my sponsor was blunt.
Yeah.
He just didn't beat around the bush.
Yeah.
And I wasn't used to that. You know what I mean? And so like it's kind of helped me also kind of pick up that habit a little bit too. And so if something needs to be addressed, we're just gonna have to address it.
Sure.
And I think people appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know I do.
Yeah.
It is yeah, I mean it's a foreign concept for some of us, but we'll get better at it.
We'll get better.
You get better at it.
Mm.
What's up with you got some what we call it? Some current events.
Current events.
Yeah, what we got? This is something new that we're going to be trying to do here, right? So we're going to be looking at some current events.
Okay, so we can. I
tell
can
me
just
what
throw
happened
some
this
stuff
week.
down and we can talk about it.
Yeah, what happened this week?
So this week is the 50-year anniversary for Jaws. I guess if you're under 30, you probably have no idea what that is.
So this is me. I didn't really care for Jaws.
You didn't?
No,
I mean,
didn't.
I didn't either.
Yeah, but I guess that's a big deal,
It's not.
You know what though? Like I would go to haunted houses and they'd have like Jaws as
Well,
one of
if
the
it would be
things.
next week, I wouldn't say it.
Why
Because it
what's
wouldn't
next
be
week?
the 50 years.
What?
It wouldn't be the 50-year
Oh, I
anniversary.
see what you're
next week.
saying.
You
Next
know?
week it'd be over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd be
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a total recall or
total
something next
recall,
year.
Yeah,
The dude
yeah.
opened this thing and the baby was in there.
Yeah,
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
Also, R. Kelly overdosed in jail. So
Ain't
what do you
that wild,
What do you
man?
think about that?
I've heard that it wasn't him. That he did overdose, but that he wasn't like that it was done to him.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. Who knows? But, it's also one of those things like maybe he's in jail just getting high. You know what I mean?
He's got the money, or well, maybe.
Maybe he's got the money, but he's got the time.
Yeah.
I know
He's had nothing
that.
but time.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that shocking to have
If
if he was,
if he was just getting high.
yeah. I mean, you look where he was at, right? He was on this pedestal. He, you know,
From
multi,
pedestal to pedophile.
yeah, pedestal to pedophile, multi-selling artist.
Yeah.
Like on
Huge.
top of the world for
Yeah.
many, many years, and then to be, an inmate with a number.
In Chicago.
Talk
too, I
about
think, right?
humbling, right? Yeah, in Chicago
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
Chicago ain't no joke. It's
yeah.
like
Oh
the,
yeah,
it's like
Cook
the murder
County.
capital.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good old
They're like
Chirac.
shooting people outside of the jail as soon as they
As
get
soon
out.
as they come out.
It's unreal.
Yeah, that is unreal.
Like, how can you justify
And
getting away with this? Or
And
whatever?
it's sad that there's so many young people
Yeah.
in that area that just throw their lives away for one,
Yeah.
and then just kill each other.
I saw
man.
one not too long ago, and it was like there was triplets. There was three of them, and then one of them got killed. And
Yeah.
they were both. There was two of them sitting there with a cardboard cutout, and then all of a sudden it was one of them sitting there with two cardboard cutouts. And I was like, "Holy crap, man!
Wow, that's horrible.
It's unreal.
Yeah, that is.
Like, how can this?
I don't
Imagine
know.
the mother. Like,
Yeah.
these are triplets.
Yeah.
They're the same.
Right.
Almost,
Yeah.
know?
Well, and they got
Um,
that bond,
Yeah.
and
And
then
then it just slowly dwindles down
Yeah.
one at a time. And
yeah, and of course, me over here in Tennessee, I'm probably one of those people that doesn't consider that there's not a lot they can do. Because of course I'm like, well, just move. You know what I mean? Like, why do
Yeah.
you live there? And it's like
Right.
that's just not easy for people to
Right.
just pick up move. Some people don't have the funds to do that, or
Some people don't want to.
some people that don't want to. Yeah,
The gang life's real big up there.
it is, man. It is, and it's for what, right? You know what I mean? For what?
I don't know. I think they just grow up in that, and
Yeah,
if
it's
if your
influence.
family base isn't good
Yeah.
at home, then that's your family.
Right, right. Or your family was also a
Yeah,
part,
a
of,
part
that,
of that,
and
right.
it's just it keeps going to generation
Yeah.
to generation.
Another thing, one more thing that
Yeah.
happened this week.
What's that?
Purdue Pharma
Okay,
settled out for $6 billion.
$6 billion. How
But-
much is my cut?
Well,
How much are we going to get?
first off, you know you're a dirtbag, Sackler family.
The Sackler
Sackler family.
Yeah,
Because they just
Sackler
gave
shit.
them an extra $1.4 billion.
What do you mean?
I mean, they settled out for $6 billion, but they gave them 7.4.
Oh, they threw a tip in.
threw a tip in. And do you know the difference in a million and a billion?
The letters, the first two letters
no.
are different.
1 million seconds is 11 days.
11 days. That's
And
not that long. I would have
No.
thought it would have been a lot longer. than
1
that.
billion seconds is 31 years.
That's crazy. Are you sure?
I'm positive.
That is what? That's wild.
That's wild.
That is wild. That's
It's a big difference.
difference.
A lot of people don't know the difference in a million and a billion, but I heard that and I was like, wow, that's interesting.
That is interesting. It is a big deal.
Yeah.
Something I saw today was that the overdose rate in 2023, like for deaths, was 114,000, and from December of 24 to January of 25, I'm sorry, from January 24 to January 25, it was 83,000.
Wow.
That's a big difference.
That is a big difference.
That's a big difference, man. And like that gives me hope,
Yeah.
you know.
The numbers on everything with addiction is usually not good.
No, and
Like
it
very-
has gone the other way.
Yeah.
But there was part of that, that thing that I read was that some of the things that it had to do with was COVID during the years after, like that year or two after COVID. That's why the numbers were off, or that it was just a
Huh.
like it's not necessarily a trend, like a downward trend, that it's going to
COVID
pick
or
back
not,
up. And
if
it's like,
if I was in the middle of it, ain't nothing stopping me.
of course not.
Wheelbarrow
Yeah.
racing to the
Right,
dope
and that's got to be the same attitude in recovery,
Right.
right?
100%.
Yeah, because it's easy when it's raining outside for me to be like, I'll just go to another one tomorrow.
Right.
But yet,
Or
when
you
it was,
work all day and you're like, I'm tired. I'm
Yeah.
just going to take a shower and watch
well, and then like when with the active addiction, it didn't matter rain, sleet, or snow.
TV. No.
I'm going.
It's tornadoes right now.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll bob and weave.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna make it through. We're gonna
Yeah.
make it through. Well, man, it's been a good podcast. It's been good talking to you. I appreciate you
I
being
love you,
willing
man.
to coming on here. I love you too,
You're the
brother.
guy, man. I appreciate it.
Nah,
And
man, I'm just a guy
yeah.
that's got
Well, I mean,
a desire
you
for
got a lot.
change.
You got a lot going on in NA, and you're positive, and you
Yeah.
just don't put out any bad vibes. It's always cool to be around you, and
I think that's important
yeah,
though. I really do, man. And I think the big thing for me is like I'm just genuinely happy
yeah,
today. You
yeah,
know?
and you can see that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
and that to me makes a difference in how like the rest of my life is going to go. Or not the rest of my life, but my day, right? I
Right.
wake up in a good mood. I go to bed in a good mood. But a lot of that also has to do with waking up and giving thanks and
Sure.
going bed before I go to bed giving thanks. So I'm grateful to be a part of your journey.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what the future holds, not only for your journey, but for everybody that comes through these doors and everybody who doesn't come through these doors.
Yeah.
I just I want everybody to know out there that recovery is possible. We do recover. And if you are struggling and you're going through it right now and you want help and you don't know where to go or what to do or how to start or who to call, you can give me a call,
Mm.
931-639-5637. The website for Secured Sober Living, if you want to put an application in, is www.securedsoberliving.com. And yeah, we look forward to helping any and everybody that wants the help, man. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be back with another one soon.
Ace.